Everybody that came, thank you for everybody that came before me. Your poetry is greatness. Thank you. My forefathers. My forefathers lived when rivers were the official recognition software. And you had to run along the riverbank, investing smile after smile, different angles for each ripple. And people standing a mile down the same current could swear they saw your appearance and gestures floating by. The slippery arms of the river cuddling their reflections down tributaries and photo booths of ancestral truth that flowed until the collective expressions of theirs gathered around the umbilical cord of the ocean, waiting to be reborn. But dried up, if those rivers dried up along the way, the sun cut out the middleman and took those same reflections directly towards the sky. And with the evaporation, their facial features recollected into pixels of cloud, droplets of images becoming a feast of mist that redistributed itself across the sky as paddles that struggled to mirror each inch of emotion until they caved in and became picturesque droplets of rain. Each lightning strike a shutter button, each landing reordering their faces in the sand. So when you see shapes and shadows in the clouds, remember, rivers are vigilant photographers, squinting their eyes through sudden dips in the tide, kneeling along riverbanks to repeat the process, such that every time it rains, I am drenched in their praise poems, black and proud. So give me an avalanche of those raindrops. Let them cascade down the ski slopes of my own rugged edges, taking screenshots of the naked valleys and forgotten imperfections that I have kept hidden. Let the torrential downpour of their wrinkles leave squiggles on the camera lens of all those peeking into the street to catch a glimpse of my ancestral code. Those trying to download my totems via modems. Let them know that my photographic memory is one with the river, where the first picture perfect caption of my forefathers was screenshot by a virgin wave crashing against the shores of their eyelashes and cascading down their cheeks as tears of redemption. My forefathers lived when mirrors were water bodies upon which their reflection was never thirsty to be seen. But if you cupped your hands and took a drink from the river, your tongue saved their memory upon its surface, and you never did thirst for a single drop ever again. Zomkhonto. My last poem, my last poem is called Flowers for the Living. Instead of giving flowers to the living, how about we start teaching each other how to grow rose gardens? Tell our children that roses have thorns as their only defense against weapons formed against them. That if they really meant to hurt us, they wouldn't tease us with their fragrance, only to make us bleed. Because if roses were us, we would say they are just human, so let them be. How many flowers that you know have declared wars? And if it seems they did, wasn't it because some stranger decided to enter a rose garden uninvited, too distracted to see the trespassing sign? How many things do we put a fence around that would have openly spread their arms? But we bear arms to keep out intruders, protecting the illusion that to have more is to be the happiest. Yet we barely walk in the gardens we keep from our neighbors, wouldn't tell one flower from the next, content with the power of heaven discovered it first. Yet only the poor gardener that tends the roots and steals shoots to replant in her backyard is perhaps the only one closest to the smell of God. My mother, my mother grew flowers too. I think it had something to do with how she could not surgically remove the love she felt inside. Lay it on the operating table and let it generate as much light as the darkest corners of the world were able to hold. But even our own fathers were too distracted searching for gold, preferring to dig down than to dig deep into her soul. So her garden wilted in the sun, with no one seeing anything different regarding what their flowers had become. How their petals spread like colorful weighted wings, which only angels can dream. How they showered naked in the sun's rays until their soft skin was a miracle of illumination. How even the queen bee admittedly entered my mother's garden discreetly, started a hive in secret, too selfish to share the recipe. How the ghost of every bee still sums my mother for sweetness, and the ghost of every flower that wilted shields her smile with its petals, weaving a quilt of every aroma which pries the spirit open to reveal the innermost garden with no trespassing signs posted except to leave everything the same way you found it. Zomkhonto, thank you for listening.
Thank you, my friend.